Good morning. Thanks for joining us. This is Court TV. I'm Chanley Painter in downtown Minneapolis, Minnesota. We're hearing more from one of the two alternate jurors in the Derek Chauvin murder trial. Lisa Christensen, juror number 96, is speaking out to several media outlets about her experiences serving on the jury. Christensen was in the courtroom for all of the testimony, but was dismissed before the jury started deliberations on Monday. She talked to CNN about the prosecution's most significant witness in the case.
Dr. Tobin was like the turning point for me. Obviously, he's very intelligent, and I appreciate him explaining it in the way that all of us could understand it. I understood what he was saying. I thought it was very powerful. Probably the most important witness they had. And why he was powerful to me is because I feel like he could actually point out going through the video and saying, hey, at this instance right here is when Mr. Floyd lost his life. You know, he pointed out the seizure and he's like, this is what happened right here.
Let's bring in my guest for today. Robert James is a former district attorney. April Sampson is a prosecutor, and former criminal defense attorney Damon Sharonis is the attorney for former Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein. I really appreciate all of you joining me today, lending your expertise. I'm going to start with you, Robert, on this issue because it is always something. I'm a former prosecutor as well. We love to hear from jurors in trials to know what they were thinking, know what they were seeing, how they took in the evidence. And this is an opportunity for the Chauvin prosecutors and defense team, too, to really kind of get inside that deliberation room a bit. Even though this was an alternate juror, she still can offer some insights to the case. What were your thoughts?
Well, I think that an expert that is able to make things plain to the jury is worth his or her weight in gold. Oftentimes in trials, as prosecutors and as defense lawyers, we tend to talk over the juror's head. But the best prosecutors, the best defense attorneys, the best witnesses are those that are able to just make it plain for people. And I think that's what she said. She said, this witness walked us through the evidence and made it plain for us in a way that we could understand it.
And Damon, this Dr. Tobin, arguably one of the best expert witnesses we've seen inside of the courtroom, how he captured the jury's attention based on those pool reporter notes, those who observed the jury during his testimony. Interesting here in this case, there was not what's called a 703 hearing that kind of qualifies an expert, determines the scope of expert's testimony. And there were some things I noticed watching Dr. Tobin's testimony that I may have objected to as a defense attorney. I'm wondering if you agree, and especially considering how effective he seemed to be with the jurors.
I think his qualifications kind of spoke for themselves, and I don't think he was testifying as to anything that was outside of sort of the normal scope of expert testimony. That said, again, when you're dealing with an expert, and expert witnesses are, some of the more prepared they are, the more difficult they are to cross-examine, and the more you have to prepare to cross-examine them. And this isn't a comment at all on what Mr. Nelson did. I have no qualms with that. But you've got to be careful lodging objections against experts. You have to do it judiciously. Experts, if given enough rein, can run wild on you. The problem with this expert, from the defense perspective, is he was eminently qualified. And what he really did was the whole world saw this video. The whole world reacted to this video. Seasoned defense attorneys and police officers watched this video and all felt that a crime was committed. And what this witness did was he added that scientific layer to what was a visceral response by the public and by the jury to the video, and he did it in a very methodical and easy to understand way. So he was a devastating witness, but he also had, the science really on his side, and he was able to effectively sort of allow the prosecution to move their theory to the jury. So yeah, he was a wonderful witness, and I think the jury responded to that.
For sure. Let's listen to this alternate juror talk about what you just mentioned, the police and use of force testimony.
It clarified on their use of force policy. It was helpful that the few officers that came in and said, hey, I train in this class, I teach this class. What you see Mr. Chauvin doing is something that we don't teach. I don't even know what that is.
April Sampson, she's referring to the witness after witness from law enforcement officers to use of force experts for the prosecution. And these weren't just any Minneapolis police officers, April. These were the highest ranking officers in the Minneapolis police force coming in and telling this jury that what Derek Chauvin did wasn't proper. It wasn't what we trained. It wasn't part of our policy, and it was just wrong. And obviously had an effect, did it not?
Yes, definitely. And it was definitely necessary. I mean, we can all look at that video, think whatever we think about it, but for the law and for what that jury needed to hear, they needed to hear that what he did was not right for an officer. And so it's not enough to just say, we think that this shouldn't have happened. You have to explain why it was improper for a police officer to do that. And so having so many in law enforcement high ups, you had, the captains, you had all of these people coming in, and you also had a professor from where I'm from here, from South Carolina, who is an expert in that area, come in and explain exactly why what he did was improper. And so I think that was exactly what the prosecution needed to do to get the verdict that they did.
And Robert, the defense really didn't have the exact counter. They brought in one use of force expert, a medical expert, but clearly didn't have the take that the jurors had with the prosecution, and really on cross-examination for both of the defense experts. It really undercut, I think, a lot of the theories of their case, and obviously the jury didn't buy into any of it.
Well, it's difficult when you just don't have the facts on your side, right? You can call experts all day long, but in a case like this, where there's a technique where 9.9 out of 10 law enforcement officers are going to say this is not the way that I was trained and this is not the way it's supposed to be done. Obviously, you'll find someone, that may be able to say, well, this wasn't what killed him, or this is appropriate in this instance, but it's going to be easy pickings on cross-examination. And that's what sort of played out. That's what manifested itself during the course of this trial. I just don't think the defense had a strong position to start with. The tape was jarring and common sense told you something was wrong. But then when the experts came and explained why it was wrong, it was pretty much over from that point.
And the prosecution didn't begin their case in chief with the experts that they had. They started their case in chief with the eyewitnesses, the bystanders who made the cell phone videos and came very emotionally inside the courtroom to recount what happened that day. And that clearly affected these jurors, because let's listen to alternate juror 96 talk about that moment.
I guess I didn't really realize how much people were affected. I mean, the bystanders really, really brought that out of, how emotional it was for them, and that they couldn't. I think a lot of them did the best they could to bring attention to, hey, pay attention to this guy, and it just didn't work out that way.
She goes on, she's spoken to many media outlets, and she goes on to talk about how brave she thought Darnella Frazier was. She's the one who actually filmed the viral video that everyone has seen of George Floyd's last moments. And Darnella was given an opportunity to really tell the jury how this has affected her emotionally. Damon, she talked to the jury about how she stays up at night and she speaks to George Floyd still. And the tears and the emotion, that probably, of all the moments inside the courtroom, for me at least, is my biggest takeaway, and clearly had a resounding impact on this jury and really everyone watching the trial.
Sure, I probably would have been jumping through the roof objecting to that testimony, without a doubt. And, as a defense lawyer in a case like this where emotions are running wild, you have to be extra vigilant to try to limit what I thought respectfully was not relevant testimony, to get into her inner dialogue with Mr. Floyd. That was very compelling. And certainly this young woman has gone through a lot. But is that really relevant evidence in front of a jury who is deciding whether a crime was committed? I don't think so. So, that type of emotional evidence, I don't think swayed won the day for the prosecution. I think the tape and the experts won the day for the prosecution, and the facts, as Mr. James said, good lawyers make good facts make good lawyers, and the prosecution had some really good facts in this case. But yeah, I was a little confounded as to why that testimony was allowed in. It was prejudicial, it was not relevant, and it didn't do anything to help Mr. Chauvin's already very slim chances of an acquittal.
Yeah, the judge did cut her off there at the end, but not before she was able to express herself in April. I'm curious, let's say you're representing one of the other 3 officers whose trial is upcoming in August. Would you maybe take some of this interview from the alternate juror about how this testimony of Darnella Frazier affected her, maybe in a motion to limit testimony of those type of witnesses in your trial coming up?
As we watched the trial, I was wondering why, or if the defense didn't try to do a motion limine earlier to limit that. I am with the other panelists in that I can't see why their feelings, they're relevant to them clearly and relevant to what they went through, but it's not relevant to whether Chauvin's guilty or not. And it's pretty prejudicial. I mean, most of the witnesses did a lot of that, talking about their feelings and how this affected them. And that would be normally what you would use maybe at sentencing, but not necessarily during the trial. So if I was the counsel for the remaining defendants, I most definitely would try to get some sort of limiting instruction from the judge, or some way to limit that testimony in terms of not going into their feelings or how this affected them, but maybe what they saw at the time. I think it was relevant for her to talk about what they tried to do to get Chauvin to get off of the Floyd, in terms of he doesn't have a pulse. Can you check his pulse? He's not breathing. All of those things are relevant. But how she felt afterwards, and hearing him at night and all of that, and all of the witnesses did some of that to some extent about how they felt afterwards. I think I would fight as hard as I could to keep that out if I was the attorney for the defendants coming up.
Indeed. And Robert, I'm curious to know your thoughts. Let's say you're representing some of these other co-defendants, your upcoming trial. How is this guilty verdict, the testimony that came in, affecting maybe what motions you're going to start to file over the next few weeks?
Well, I'm going to be, watching every square inch of the trial. I've recorded it, I've watched it, and all of the things that, I think are objectionable, like this, what I call victim impact evidence, that I think was very prejudicial. And I think was a bit irresponsible for the prosecution to allow in, because, you're really trying to make your case appellate proof. Those are the types of things that I'm drafting my motions in limine to object to. From a strategic standpoint, I'm trying to distance myself from him, him being Derek Chauvin. So.
For sure. Absolutely. All 3, I am sure, are trying to do that right now with their attorneys. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me, your insights today. We're going to keep you around, because coming up, we've got a preview of the next murder trial we're covering here on Court TV. It involves a man, his wife, and his fiance. That's next. Don't miss it.